Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and I have an article that I would like to address that quite a few people have asked me to address. It's been linked on the fan page by several people, and that's Greg Nuckols' article on how much do anabolic steroids or PEDs actually affect strength and strength sports. Alright, normally I really like Greg Nuckols. I like his work. I'm actually a fan of his work. I read his articles. I think he's a brilliant guy. I think he's a fantastic coach, and he's a fantastic athlete. I like him overall. I am really unhappy with this article. I think from a scientific perspective, this article was poorly done because the observational variables being looked at, there's no control and there's reason to believe that the data is actually wrong that's being gathered. And that has to do with the fact that it works under the prevailing assumption that the heavily drug-tested lifters in either sport are actually not using lots of anabolic drugs, or that there's any limit on the sheer amount that they could use because of the drug testing. That's the flaw in it. And nothing could be further from the truth. Now, a lot of you guys know, because people have pulled my background, that I have a bit of a clandestine background. Some of that did come out when Lane and other people sued me, that yes, I have worked as a mercenary in the past abroad. Yes, I have run an anabolic steroid lab. And yes, I have been paid by athletes to help them through random testing at the university level quite a bit. Actually, over a dozen different athletes paid me to help them with that, who undergo more stringent testing than most of these drug-tested powerlifters do. So the first problem is that when you're gathering information and gathering data, when you're looking at the variables in one of your groups, when you have reason to believe that the data is wrong, and in the case that they're not using drugs, and you've got a problem scientifically. What I mean by the reason to believe that the data is wrong is that, do they have an actual means and a motive to give you false data? In this case, that they're not using drugs. And the answer is yes to both. And it's a very strong yes to both. It's an overwhelming yes. Because the means available, are there any commonly available PEDs that can get through very, very stringent drug testing, including what the IPF does? If random off-season testing, the answer is yes. I'm going to list a few for you right now. Testosterone suspension, high on the list, and a lot of people say, well, that might mess up your T to E ratios. That's why you have epitestosterone. And people pin it before bed at night. Their testosterone levels drop low enough in the morning, and people say, well, their production might be suppressed enough that they would have an off T to E ratio. That's why you put epitestosterone back in the body in the morning. Problem solved. You come up clean every time, even on a random drug test at 8 a.m. Beautiful, flawless method, been used for decades. How about trenbolone suspension, Trenbase, which is now popular? Growth hormone, now it's a little easier to catch it now, but it's still easy to slip through the cracks. And let's name a few that you can't really test for it all if people are smart. How about insulin? How about IGF-1? How about mechanogrowth factor? What about the whole assortment of GHRPs and GHRHs, ranging from everything from GHRP2, GHRP6, imiprimerin, MOD-GRF? All these other compounds are very anabolic. They are very performance enhancing, and there is no way to drug test for them for anyone who's intelligent in their use for them. So, are the means available? Yes, because most of these drugs are pretty cheap. They're readily available across the entire United States and Europe. You can find them at every gym. You can order them off the internet. So, the means is available. Is the motive available? Yes, these drugs all boost performance. These people are champions who want to win. Therefore, they also have a motive to use the drug. They also have a motive to lie about it, because in many of these cases, the drugs are illegal. So not only would they be stripped of their titles and kicked out of their federations, they could go to jail for admitting their use if they get caught with them. So they have a means and a motive to use them, and they have a reason to lie about it. So from a scientific perspective, this data is already useless. And you want to look at it further and see the flaws in the data, just look through the weight classes. So steroids seem to make an average of a 10% difference in strength for strength athletes if you compete in certain weight classes and not in others. So if you're in the 181 or the 220, they make a really big difference. But if you're in the 198, they don't matter at all. So that's what the data is suggesting, that because the 198 world record holder is a drug-tested athlete, and he beats all the drug-using athletes around the world in the 180 and the 198 powerlifting weight class, that he is the best of the best, even though they're using limitless amounts of drugs, that he beats them with no drugs. Is that what we should draw from this data? Or should we draw from the fact that the actual drug tests don't work? The reality is that the drug testing only limits the variety and the different tools that people have available. It doesn't stop them from being able to use some of the most powerful anabolic and performance enhancing drugs. It just means that they have to be more careful. And the same thing goes for the American numbers versus the world numbers in the Olympic lifting. run into the same problem. If people consider that American weightlifting coaches just suck, we haven't produced the quality of athletes and the quality of programs that other countries have, we suck at Olympic lifting. Our coaches don't seem to know what they're doing compared to some of the other countries out there that are beating us. Our guys are still using the same drugs that they are. So what's the answer to the question? We don't have an answer. It's not a 10% difference because we don't have any way to draw meaningful conclusions because we don't have good data. We don't know who's actually drug-free and who isn't, or who's using what, because of the rules against drugs in the sport. So there's so much cheating going on behind the scenes that we can't measure. We don't actually have a means to scientifically answer the question of how much difference do drugs make in strength. The answer is we don't know, and at this time, because of the rules and the obfuscation going on, the clandestine nature of it, we do not have a means to answer the question. So this article is bullshit. All right, guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time.